Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs, and today we'll be looking at a figure who is way too big for my setup, the Storm Collectibles Darkseid figure. I will be treating this both as a video review of what I think of the figure, as well as my breakdown for the repaint that I did last weekend. I did a live stream where I fully repainted him, and so yeah, I'll explain my process there, so that you guys don't have to watch the whole, what I think like 3.5 hours or 3 hours worth of live stream. So hopefully we can do both and break it down. I'm also trying to work on a shorter video format and see if that makes it easier on people, because I generally have like 40-minute videos. So yeah, we'll see how all that plays out. So let's get right into it. We're first going to take a look at the accessories. They're pretty standard, but I might as well go over them. So I'm just going to pop off the head here, and we'll be able to take a look at the accessories as well as talk about the paint work I did on them. So the first thing is I did no paint work on the Omega beams because I think they're fine. They're a little bit light on the red, but that is mainly for the fact that, you know, if you're into ACBA and you're taking a lot of pictures, you'll have your own artificial lighting, and you know, these being clear will help pick up the glow. So that's the way they are. Nothing to really talk about there. Gonna set them aside. I'm not gonna touch them again. They're cool accessories. I'm personally never gonna pose it with them because these things are huge. Here, real quick for a size comparison, let's stand this up. Oops, here's the Mezco Batman. Here's the Mezco Darkest Dawn Batman. These things are way longer than 6 inches. They're huge. They don't belong on a display case unless you have a ton of room. It just makes no sense. So I'm not gonna display him ever with these. Maybe I'll take a picture or two, but they're just so obnoxious. I think Storm Collectibles could have made them much shorter and still got the same point across. But they're cool nonetheless. A cool thing to have, and I appreciate the effort of them being there. So let's dive into the accessories. We have our first head. We have his very calm, you know, dictator Darkseid stone face head. I'll be posting a before and after picture, like not specifically of the heads, but of the whole figure. But if you've seen other reviews of Darkseid, if you own the figure yourself, or if you're thinking about owning him, his skin is a very sort of warm brown color, and I didn't like that. It didn't look much like stone. To give you an example of it, if I bend the elbow, yeah, so the black wash wasn't able to get into everything. And so I missed a little bit of it in here, but you can see that, yeah, so I do still have some dry brushing over it, but it's not as good. But this is it without the black wash. So if you're looking at the cracks specifically where it's a little bit lighter, that's basically the color of all his skin. And once again, this is a repaint for myself, so I didn't really worry about the joints too much either. Wasn't something I was too concerned about because he's going to be on my shelf. So yeah, if it was going to be on someone else's shelf, I definitely would have gotten into the elbows and made sure all the little cracks and, you know, nooks and crannies of this figure are totally covered. But in this case, I go, he's going to be standing there. No one's going to own him. I can cut the corner of the elbows. It doesn't matter to me. And if I'm the owner, that's all that matters. So it does have, well, here, let's bend the elbow again. Let's take a look. So that is closer to the original color. And this is the color that we now have for the skin. This is much warmer. It looks more like dirt and almost like a sandy brown rock compared to more of the cold stone that I was trying to get out of the head. So I'm going to put the figure back down. So with that, I did a black wash over the head. I don't have a specific brand of black wash. In fact, I actually just make my own. It was something that I learned from a tutorial a couple of years ago, which was basically just take your black acrylic paint, thin it out so it's more watery, and then just, you know, paint it over, and then get a paper towel and just sort of dab off the top layer of excess and just let the black sit in the cracks. And that's what I did. And that's what I've always done for my black wash. And it's always worked. It works wonderfully. So that's all I needed to do. So I black washed the whole face. And then after that, I mixed, it was black, white, and a little bit of brown because, you know, rocks still have an earthy tone, but not nearly as much as his original skin did. And so I mixed this, you know, grayish brown tone Yeah, when you get it from the profile, you can really see it. And so I got this much like colder stone look, which is exactly what I wanted. Also, I love how in this lighting, it looks like he just has red dots of glowing eyes. That's so sick. In fact, his eyes are all red, but that's cool. That's cool. You get him like, it looks like his eyes are turning and following the camera. Sorry, I'm having fun here. So anyways, so that's what I did for the skin. I also took that brown and mixed it with, that brownish gray, mixed it with a little bit of red. And so actually for all the lips of the figure, there is a separate, reddish tone. Also, my finger keeps on like changing the tilt or like the tint. You see that? It's kind of funny. It's changing the lighting a little bit. So yeah, so I'm going to remove my hand here, let that sort of color correct. Yeah, and so that's the tone of the lips there. So cool. So we got that head out of the way. The other heads are all painted in the same style. So let's talk less about the face and let's talk more about the armor. All the blue armor I repainted with an Angelus Sapphire Blue. Angelus is a leather paint and it leaves this wonderful like shiny varnish over everything. And so I repainted all the armor with the Sapphire Blue to get it more of a true blue. If you own the figure, if you see pictures of it, you'll realize that the blue of his armor, oh wait, this is unpainted. Yeah, I didn't paint the neck area. Cool, so let's take a look. As you can see, it has more of a purple hue to it, especially in the shadows. You can really see that purple. You can see the purple down there. You can see some of the purple up there. It has this metallic purplish blue look to it. And as you can see, the blue is really light. Here, let me cover up all the armor so you just see that. It's a very light blue. And it just didn't feel Darkseid to me at all. Yeah, that's just not Darkseid's color. And so I turned it into the Sapphire Blue, which is a much deeper and what I would call a truer blue. And then also the red lines here got painted in Angelus leather red paint, and that just helps bring out sort of that apocalyptic energy. And the whole goal for this figure was to bring in the classic colors, but add sort of like a new 52 rebirth vibe to it. And so that's sort of where I got the idea for the red lining. Another thing to point out is if you own the original version, you'll notice that his teeth are very gray. I whitened out his teeth a little bit. I don't know if that's accurate to, an apocalyptic new god leader, but it helps you to be able to see them. Before, they were almost the same color as his original skin, only ever so slightly different, and it looked like his teeth were just sort of like a blob in his mouth. I didn't like it, so we did that. And then also for the eyes, they're normally a metallic red. What I actually did was I painted white dots. Yeah, you can see them just a little bit. I painted white dots into the eyes. Oh yeah, right there, that's a good angle. I painted white dots into the center of the eyes and then glossed it over with Angelus red. And so you can actually see sort of where his pupil belongs within that red glow. Yeah, there you go. You can see it there too. So that's a fun little detail. The camera won't pick it up generally in photos, but for me and having it in hand, it is a detail that you can, see. And so that was pretty fun. So all the heads are painted in that same style, with the dry brushing, with the blue, with the red, with the new teeth, with the lips, with the new eyes. Another thing is this chin guard piece. I did it in black because having it run blue all the way around just didn't look good. And so since this was sort of a tucked in layer, just kind of like how this is a tucked in layer in the back, I painted it black. And I think that looks pretty solid. Finally, last but not least, we come to his laser eye head. This one got a little bit of a different treatment than the rest. It still got the same paint job, but then after all of that was done, I dropped some red into the cracks there so that we can get his like fiery eyes, and I love it. It's so fun. This is the head that I display my figure with most of the time. Yeah, just super, super fun to get that glow. It reminds me, not kind of reminds me, it does remind me of Man of Steel Superman. With when he did his laser eyes, you would see the glow behind and under his skin. And so that's kind of something I wanted to mimic with the Omega beams. So coming to the hands now, not too much to write home about. I just painted them in black. They were originally, yeah, you can kind of see it in there. That was the color of the hands before on the inside of that peg. If my camera will focus, it's like a bluish purple. You can even see it out. Yeah, there we go. It's a bluish purple color. It's not really black. It was darker than, you know, the blue plastic and whatnot. So you did get some contrast, but it's more of a bluish purple. And I was like, that makes no sense. And this Darkseid in general has a lot of this purplish tone. You know, we talked about it at the base of the head. You know, once again, we see a little bit of that purplish tone inside the sockets there. So I painted it a true black, and that's just so much better. And that's really all the hands are done. I don't need to go over it. He's got fisted hands. He's got, you know, commanding or saluting hands. He's got open, expressive hands. He goes, "Go, my parademons." He goes, whoosh, or whatever. And then he's also got grasping hands so that he can grab Superman or Batman or anyone and chuck them across the room. So that's the accessories. We've gotten that out of the way. Now for the big bad himself, Darkseid, and all the paintwork we did for him. I'm going to put on my favorite head. Get that in nice and tight. And now let's talk about him. One, he's massive. I'm going to do a size, just so you guys get an idea. It's really hard to say he's massive or he doesn't fit inside my light box, my makeshift light box very well, without getting a size comparison. So here's our Darkest on Batman. Darkest on Batman is barely crossing Darkseid's waist. Just a little bit. This guy's tall. He's huge. And I love it. I know some people were saying that it doesn't feel like Darkseid scales well. And I mean, I guess when you think about some comics, Darkseid is only like a head or two taller than Superman. But when you talk about like a new god and someone who is searching for, you know, the equation to, you know, the anti-life equation to take over the will of everyone, you know, someone who can shoot omega beams and wipe people from existence, this size feels much better. Also, if you know about Darkseid's powers, he can manipulate his size, so it doesn't matter anyways, but I like him at this height in comparison to your standard 1/12 scale figures, whether that be Mezco or Marvel Legends. They share generally the same proportions, and this guy towers over them, and I like that a lot. So let's get into our paint. So we already know that all the armor, this blue got hit with the sapphire blue. You know, it's that same very nice saturated blue. I like it. I dig it a lot. I dry brushed it with silver as well. You can see some silver in these, you know, different angled areas, and that I just did that to add some wear and tear to the armor. You know, he's fought in a lot of battles. He's burnt 10,000 worlds to the ground, or 100,000, whatever he says in the Snyder Cut. I haven't watched it yet. So, you know, he's been through war. His armor should have some scuffing on it. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's start from the top. Arms got the same black wash and brown-gray dry brushing that the heads did, so everything's the same tone. The armor itself, I left the gold symbol the same. This, you know, the blue obviously got painted. The red is new, also still done in Angelus Leather Paint Red. These shoulder pieces here that run around the back are done in gold, and this was something I had to paint. The collar piece used to be like a metallic purple. I painted it a matte black and then gave it a gloss black collar, and that's a fun way just to pick out some extra detailing. I wish I did some gloss black around other parts of the suit, but I think for the collar is just a nice little touch as well. So we have that. Another thing that I wanted to transfer over from the classic version is his silver belt. The normal Storm Collectibles version, the sides here are all done in like a metallic purple, and I just wasn't gonna, I don't know why he has metallic purple on him. It makes no sense. It's not a Darkseid color. So I painted it all black, and then this belt was actually all black originally. So I painted it chrome silver, added in the red lining all throughout it, as you can see there. And yeah, that made a huge difference. And so we get that more classic silver belt look that we see in Darkseid's, you know, original form when he popped up in the comics. Something I wanted to add, you know, obviously we're trying to add more detail. We're trying to bring in, you know, a much bigger and more comic accurate feel to the character. And part of that for me was making him feel alien and also sort of regal, which is why I wanted to add the gold, but which is also why I added color shifting paints into the suit. So as you can see, all sort of like this outer edge armor here. We also have it on the sides of these sort of like little skirt pieces, as well as on the back, as well as on the arms. We have this color shifter, and it does a blue, green, violet, very similar to my Owlman figure. It's the same combo of paints. And if you haven't watched the Owlman figure review, I put them both out today as of when this video got uploaded. So it is a double feature weekend. Woo! So go check that one out if you haven't. But what I did on top of that was it was originally too shiny. And if you see the live stream, this was really bright. So I ended up taking some black gray paint and just dry brushing over bits of it so that you get some wear and the angles don't shine as hard. And that really helped. So you're still able to see the color shifting, and you still get that very cool alien metal type look, something a little bit royal, something rare, something, whatever idea comes to mind when you see that color shifting paint inside the suit. But it also helps it not be so bright that it takes away from the, the blue. And obviously we got some dry brushing on, on the suit itself as well, bringing in that wear and tear. We got some more red lines running through the skirt, continuing that, that red apocalyptic energy type vibe. Something I did do is that these wrist pieces, they are soft plastic, as you can see, and normally they just sit loose on the arm. I glued them onto the hard piece, so the soft piece here got glued on right at that edge to the hard armor, and I did it on both sides so that they are like one cohesive tiered armor piece, because before, when you would rotate the wrist, you'd rotate the piece of armor around too, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Armor is not supposed to rotate on you, otherwise it serves no purpose. It's supposed to stay still to provide protection. So I pegged that down or glued it down, and obviously since it's soft plastic, you can pop the hands on and off, you can move the hands around, there's no issue. The soft plastic just bends with it. So that's just something I did for myself. I also painted the glove parts here on either side black to match the, his hands. These whole side areas we painted in a matte black. Once again, they used to be a metallic purple. And then I pulled out all the detailing in silver, a chrome silver, which is the same paint as the belt. And that just helped, brings out some detail, but sticks to the still more classic Darkseid look. Yeah, so that's all done in matte black. And then for the legs here, they were a very similar sort of purplish black plastic that we saw on the hands. Once again, sort of related, we have like the cloth, we have the cloth, or, supposed cloth, I guess. And so that was all done in that same purple. And so I took Angelus leather black, and once again, like we talked about, the Angelus paint has a nice sheen to it. And so that's where you get that sort of semi-gloss look on the pants. And so that's what I did for the pants, is it all got hit with that semi-gloss black paint. And that helps, and I like it because it does offer some nice contrast between the pants and then like the armor itself, is that you can, between the gloss and the matte black, you do get a, you do get a texture difference. So I think that's pretty nice. And so yeah, take advantage of your glosses and your mattes and your metals and everything. They can all play off of each other well, and it's just about proper application. And so I think that's what helps really make this figure stand out, is that we just kept very clean lines. We used the red to also separate some of our lines so that like the metallic blue here doesn't clash with this, because visually you have some red running through it. And so you can see that, that they're very, separate designated parts. And then obviously, since I did some silver dry brushing, it gives off the idea that this is hard, that this is a hard piece as well. So there's different painting techniques you can also employ to get across the idea of what material your different parts are made out of. And once again, we keep, that Angelus black, sort of more of a matte black, glossy black. It also helps differentiate the body parts and what pieces of the costume do what, in essence. So now for like my basic overview, sort of review of the figure. It's a great figure. Articulation is pretty good overall. I think the only thing that stands out is his leg articulation. He only, like if you really push it, he gets a solid, like 90 out of a double jointed knee. That seems very, very low, at least in my mind. I know that, you know, they're trying to keep everything seamless and show as little of the joint as possible, but 90 just, yeah, this is as far as it can go, and I don't want to push it any farther because I'm afraid I'm going to break something. Yeah, so you get a solid 90 out of the legs. Yeah, and for double joint, that just doesn't seem like much. I also wish that there was, like, the only time you can get any leg twist is from this joint up here. I wish that there was something at the, you get an ankle rocker, but I wish that I could actually, like, rotate the foot, which I can't, and it has to stay in, like, a straight position with the leg, which makes sense, but at the same time, I wish I had that sort of side-to-side movement. I think it would just make it easier to pose. We get a nice toe crunch, little toe swivel, whatever you want to call it, which is cool. The elbows, you get, depending on which joint you bend first, I think you bend this one first and then this one. Yeah, you still get 90, but honestly, it's a much tighter, like this is a much tighter connection overall than this one is. You can see there's still a lot more gappage. So I still think that this is a better joint compared to the knees. But, you know, that being said, Darkseid's a big figure. He's a big guy, and he's also more of like a world-conquering leader than, you know, brawler. So he doesn't need like the highest level of articulation. I would have liked it to be, you know, I would, especially in these joints, I would have liked it to be a little higher, but once again, he also has a lot of mass on him, and, you know, his big rock muscles will hinder some of that movement. So I think the arms are much more acceptable than the legs, all things considered. The arms themselves, if you don't know about this about Storm Collectibles, they are just a ball peg. So you don't actually get like a real butterfly joint. It's just the rotation that your ball peg gets. And so that also means that if you want to repaint them or whatever, they're super easy to take apart. So let me peg that back in, pop that back in there. So there you go. So that's a fun thing to learn. What I will say about Storm Collectibles, and this is what they do for all their figures to my understanding, is they do have a soft plastic on the torso. He actually does have a rock textured skin under the suit, but I didn't want to take apart the suit and untab everything because it's soft plastic, you know, more of like a rubbery feel, which means that your tabs are very hard to tab back in because there's no, you know, they're not rigid, so they just sort of bend with each other, and so none of the plugs, you know, pop back into their proper places very nicely. But this whole suit is made out of a soft rubber, which means you still do get like still get like your ab crunch and your back bend and stuff like that, which is cool. But what I would comment to that is it makes it a little bit harder to paint. You feel a little bit of drag on your brush, and that's something that I pointed out in the live stream as well. So for those who are looking to repaint, just kind of be aware that this suit can be a little finicky, and you know, it is not the kindest surface to repaint on. It's not, I wouldn't call it difficult or extremely difficult, but it can be a little frustrating sometimes because of the way you feel like the texture of your brush sort of drags and sort of gets stuck on the soft plastic. Because like even my finger, if I put pressure, I kind of get stuck on it. You see that? So, you know, it's not as smooth as hard plastic. So that's just a little observation. Just beware of the drag of the brush. But yeah, I mean, that's my review. I'm super happy with him now. Sorry, camera shake. I wasn't the biggest fan of him when I pulled him out of the box. I think the most impressive part was his size. I've only ever owned one other Storm collectible, and I turned that into a Mezco style Bane, which I sold. So this is like my first Storm collectible for my own figure collection. And I really do dig him, especially after the repaint. I would say pre-repaint, he was cool for like a solid 5 minutes, and then I started realizing how I didn't like his paint job. But this brings out so much more detail. The original figure is just like blue and purple, and then like this purplish black for, you know, some of his like fabric parts. And then obviously the skin wasn't nearly as detailed. So I think if you give him the proper treatment, and you don't have to paint it just like this, obviously, but if you give him a, you know, more proper treatment, you can turn him into a very, very phenomenal figure, and one that I would say looks pretty premium overall. I'm very happy with him. I would say that the original version does just fine. You know, I don't think you're gonna suffer from him being the standard out of the factory box, but I definitely think with a little tender loving care, he definitely, you know, has a lot more potential to him. One thing I'm just gonna warn Storm collectible figure collectors, or if anyone wants to buy this guy, when you get him new out of the box, he has this really like plasticky chemical smell. And I was very surprised because I don't remember that from my Bane figure, but then I looked it up online and people say that a lot of their releases, a lot of Storm Collectibles releases has that chemical smell. So just throwing that out there, if you open him up and you're like, ugh, he smells kind of stinky, that's just totally the way he's supposed to be. I don't know what they use to like, you know, do their finishing coat on him, but whatever they do to package him up just smells a little bit like chemicals, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't mean anything bad. I didn't get a headache or whatever, so you know, not the worst thing to come out of it. But you know, anyone who's watching this video who, you know, either wants to buy this figure specifically or any other ones, if they happen to smell bad, just know it's not you. You don't have like a wacko figure. That's just the way they're supposed to be. So with that, that is my review of the figure. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope my paint overview made sense. If you want more details or if you have any questions about what I did, please feel free to DM me on Instagram. My username is inside the description of this video, as well as there's a link in the about section of my channel. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned a little something, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. I appreciate any support. I'm also trying to cut down the total duration of my videos. I've noticed that a couple of them recently have like extended into like the high 30-minute, 40-minute range. So I'm trying to bring that time down a little bit. So hopefully it's a little bit easier for you guys to watch. So hopefully you like this new, a little bit quicker, snappier video format too. If you like me to talk, you know, more in-depth detail about like how I choose what to paint, and if you want more of like my logic, let me know in the comments and I'll, you know, revert more back to that slower paced video style. But this is just something I'm trying out. So let me know. Specifically for this guy, I'm keeping him. So if you ever want me to do a little bit more of an in-depth of how I chose what to paint and what I chose not to, like, you know, how did you decide what lines to do red? How did you decide what like color, you know, to do in the color changing paint or what to keep blue? If you want to know, if you want more videos about my logic of how I paint, I'm totally down to make those too. So yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. And I hope this video has been enjoyable. And if so, please support me by following, subscribing, liking, you know the gig. Do it if you want. It's cool if you don't. And with that, that concludes my review. So without further ado, I hope you all, I messed it up. Let's try that again. Without further ado, I hope you have all, I messed it up again. Jeez. Without further ado, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you later. There we go. We did it. Awesome.